What's up, everyone? My name's Orion with Unpossible Game Labs, and I have been programming for a really long time. I started when I was a kid, so I've been programming for some time under 30 years. Not all of that professionally, obviously, because I started when I was young. And in that time, I've made a couple of cool things. I got to work on this, and I spent some time working on this. And then when I was done doing games, I even worked on some website like this and this. But I have to admit, after nearly 20 years in various programming related industries, I have gotten pretty burnt out over time. And I took about a year to a year and a half off to follow my dreams. And so far, this is how that's working out. I am working on a game that I've been calling Kindred Kind, and I want to talk to you a little bit about it. It turns out that in this version of our particular capitalist society, if you want to be an independent artist like me, and you want people to actually buy your products and sell your games, you also have to become your own marketer and talent agency and all that kind of stuff. So I'm starting YouTube. Yay! This is going to be kind of a devlog thing. It's going to be like a mixture of a number of different things with two goals. Is one, I want to tell people about the game. I've spent a couple of years working on this, both while I was working at other companies and on my own time. So there's a lot of kind of secrets and lore and love and hard work that's gone into this. I'd love for somebody out there to find this to be their favorite game. But beyond that, I've also been, like I mentioned, working for 20 years. And I've figured a couple of things out. I've figured some things out while I was working on this project. There's some things I've been doing in terms of game design that I really like. There have been things I've been doing in terms of programming that I really like. And I think I could help you out. So actually, this isn't my first time around the game design rodeo. I've actually released two small board game projects just to, kind of complete something. And one of them was called Arc Worlds, and the other one was called Kepler Run. And I feel like I've learned a couple of things that might be helpful for people who are either just starting out or trying to figure out how to kind of like refine their process. And I thought I would talk through my project and what I'm doing. And, if somebody could find value in that, then great. And again, if somebody could discover, Kindred or one of the other projects I'm working on, even better. So win, 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 win. That's a lot of wins. So as I mentioned, I've spent about 2 years working on the project, and in that time, I have focused almost exclusively on gameplay and systems. This is kind of different from maybe how you see a lot of people approach YouTube, where they'll kind of start on the visual design and implementation pretty early in the project. And a lot of times I would do something like that, but on this, I just really wanted to understand the full scope of the game and exactly how big the game is going to be. So I focused on making the game feature complete. And so, what feature complete means is that in this game, there's kind of every system, every major system that's in there that's going to be in there. So, camera systems, how I'm going to use light, how I'm going to do my animations, the particle effects that you see in the background there. All of these individual kind of gameplay elements, I made sure to kind of proof them out just so I could understand the full scope of the game before I started working on the visual and art design style. What you're going to see is primarily gameplay that's in gray box mode, and what gray box mode is a way for us to kind of test and validate our gameplay assumptions before we spend a lot of time investing in the resources of art and design and things of that nature. The game is again essentially feature complete. So were I to get Thanos snapped out of existence tomorrow, you would still be able to play this game from beginning to end and hopefully have kind of a compelling and interesting experience. That was really important to me because the next stage is, for me is going to be looking for funding of some type, whether it be a Kickstarter or a publisher or whatever. And I wanted to be able to clearly be able to articulate exactly how much work needed to be done, in as much detail as I possibly could. To give you a little background on where this idea came from, this game came to me at first quite a while ago when Shadow of the Colossus was released, and even back then, having just played a little bit of the game, uh, I thought, wouldn't it be cool if you kind of took this like idea and made it a Metroidvania? And for me, kind of what appealed to me was the idea that you had a village that was being attacked by these monsters, and you had to go out and you had to save people and rescue them and bring them back to the village while you go and fight the monsters. As I kind of mentioned, I've been doing this for a while, so I have a lot of experience in the Metroidvania genre, and I have a lot of favorite games. And naturally, one game that's been kind of a huge influence for me is everybody's favorite, the classic Knack 2. Just kidding, it's Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Of course, it's Symphony of the Night. Just an aside, it's kind of interesting that there's a whole generation of people that when you say Metroidvania, they think Hollow Knight. And Hollow Knight is absolutely amazing, but for me, the kind of goat of Metroidvanias is Symphony of the Night. While Hollow Knight is a master of the genre, I think that my game probably shares a little bit more in common with a game like Dead Cells. And so Dead Cells for me is one of those games that hits on a lot of notes. Another kind of inspiration for me has been like the Hades series. They have that very quick, fast action, that very fluid gameplay dynamic, kind of very fast, very colorful, very evocative. Finally, just the game that I've lost so many hours to is Elden Ring. Just the world building, the depth of it, the texture of this world. And yeah, I've just put a lot of hours into Elden Ring and kind of loved every minute that I played of it, especially this one being kind of my first Souls like. Knowing kind of those are my influences, like kind of the reason that Kindred Kind exists is there are things I like about both the Metroidvania and Souls-like genres, and there's kind of things that kind of get on my nerves a little bit. And so by building Kindred Kind, I've had some kind of time to kind of iterate and tweak those a little bit. And so for me, one of the things that can become a bother in Metroidvanias is the backtracking. And so I know that the traversal and backtracking is just kind of a core staple of the genre. Sometimes it just gets to be a little much. And occasionally you're on one side of the map and you know that you need to get to the other side of the map and you've done that for 30 hours already and it just feels a little daunting. So, sometimes it's nice to be able to kind of start new and be in a new environment. On the other hand, when you're playing a roguelike like Dead Cells, sometimes the thing that kind of like gets to me about that is just that feeling of like starting from ground, not the starting from ground zero part, but the starting from the first level over and over and over and over again. And I know that the kind of the whole point of that is that you're supposed to kind of get better at it over time. And I think Dead Cells does a pretty good job of giving you kind of like branching alternate paths. I thought that there was kind of an opportunity to kind of meld some of the things I liked about both those genres when building Kindred Kind. I think that the kind of combat models that exist in both a Metroidvania and a roguelike can kind of coexist together. So I kind of took inspiration from that. And again, kind of like mixing it with Elden Ring and pulled that together into the game that you have here. Okay, so I've kind of been talking about the generalities of the game, but let's get into some specifics. If you've ever played Dead Cells, and Dead Cells is supposed to be a mix of Metroidvania and roguelike, I think we could all agree that Dead Cells is more roguelike than it is Metroidvania. I think of Kindred Kind as kind of being on the other side of that, where Kindred Kind is mostly a Metroidvania, but it borrows some ideas from roguelikes that help you to freshen up your play experience as you're going through it. So, yes, there is some backtracking. Yes, there are secrets to discover. Yes, there's ability gating and kind of coming back to areas once you unlock an ability. But Kindred Kind is always kind of pushing you to try new things, change up your build, play in different play styles. In this game, you're playing a half human, half spirit, half godlike creature called the First, and you've been summoned back to this world because there are 8 divine beasts that have been corrupted by a sickness, and only you can fight these creatures and destroy them so that they don't infect the whole world. While you're doing this, you're going to routinely come back to your hub village. Then you're going to be able to set up your loadout. And then once you're happy with the loadout that you have, you're going to go into the world. And once you're in the world, there's kind of 2 modalities that you can play. You can either be more exploration focused, and you can really kind of get into that Metroidvania, find every nook and cranny of the world, and kind of discover all the secrets that you can. Or you can make kind of a beeline for the boss and kind of set your sights in one of the boss areas. And the boss areas are more kind of like a linear dungeon kind of vibe. And so you can spend your time going straight after one of the bosses. Once you do that, you're going to come back to the village where you can spend the coins that you get on unlocking new abilities and new shops. There are also some discoveries that you're going to find in there that you're not going to know until you play the game, and then you kind of go back out and do it again until you've beaten the game. I think what makes the game really interesting is one, just how quickly you can switch between your two loadouts. The game does make use of both stamina bars and cooldown timers, and kind of various resources that you have to manage that determine like when you can do what attacks. And so, when you get into a flow state with this game, you kind of get really good at, switching between the two different loadouts on the fly and making use of kind of the synergies between all those different abilities that you've equipped in a way that I just think feels like really fun and dynamic. In a lot of ways, I think Kindred Kind is kind of a refinement of some things that you've seen before. So there's RPG-like progression in the game. Each one of the stat upgrades that you get are going to be pretty impactful in terms of, kind of changing your playstyle and being noticeable when you're actually playing with it. There are 6 different weapon types, and as you play with them, you're going to find that they have, pretty different play styles. Yeah, so I think it's pretty swag. That said, I feel like I've been rambling for a while. I have a lot to talk about in this game. I could do an entire video on just the philosophy of magic, or how I'm going about weapon development, or the role that lore plays in the game, or boss designs, or so much stuff to go over. So something I forgot to mention is that where the game is, so now that it is feature complete, the thing that I'm currently working on is creating a pretty corner of the game. And so when you build out a pretty corner, you want just one section of the game that is, absolutely beautiful and floors people. And it also just kind of proves that you can, deliver on what you say you're going to deliver on. So right now I've been going through a lot of like design and environmental design and animation and building out workflows and things like that so that I can create this pretty corner over the next month or so, and really start to show, what does this product look like when it's all kind of said and done and everything comes together. If that sounds interesting to you, if you like game design, if you like art, if you like talking about the industry, if you like watching some bozo try to market their product and figure that out, then you are in the right place, my friend. So, what I will just say is for now, until next time, peace.